Hello, friends. I am coming to you live. What does that even mean? Doing my walk. And I just want to share a couple of things that I've learned from walking at least 5 days a week the last few weeks. And the title of this, I think, is probably going to be, who knows, because this is just my thoughts. A decision happens in an instant, but it changes everything. I've always been a person that wanted to do walking because it sounded good, but never committed to walking, you know? And one of the things that I just want to share is the moment that I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Everything shifted because there was a version of me that was talking about it, thought it would be great, nice to have. I know how important it is. And then there's a version of me that did it even when it didn't feel uncomfortable. And I've been thinking about what's the difference between those two versions. And the one difference is a decision. And I really want to talk about what a decision is. Okay. We do a lot of thinking. You know, you might find yourself overthinking, ruminating. Shit, I don't want to. I should do that. That would be nice. I need to get better. Man, yeah, I'm going to do that on Monday, next month, after this, after that. You know, and not just about, I'm talking specifically about things you decide to do with your body and your time, but it's about anything, decisions that you need to make, people that you want to invite into your life or let go of, money goals you want to create and step into, body goals you want to create for yourself, the type of person you are in your parenting and your relationships, so, you know, with your intimate partners, whatever, right? We do a lot of thinking about this version. I say we because everyone has a brain that just rather think than do. But thinking, ruminating, analyzing is not the same as a decision. And then there's a second part to a decision, and that is acting. So there's ruminating, thinking, there's deciding, and then there's acting. Now, those things seem to go hand in hand for a lot of people, but they don't. They require very different skill sets, okay? Ruminating, thinking, analyzing, you know, constantly going back and forth on something, you know, something's taking up room in your brain, your mind, rent-free. That takes no skill. That's actually what our brains do, all right? You don't have to work for that. That just happens. You're welcome. You're a human. Okay? Making a decision requires, I think, several skills, but I'm going to share a few that are on top of my head right now. I might think I'm going to break this down. But to make a decision is to get out of thinking and into forward motion in your mind. It's like if I was to paint a visual, is you know how they take that tassel, what is it? Not a tassel, lasso, is that what it is? And grab the whatever animal, pull it to them. That's a decision. This is the direction we're going. This is what's happening. Very different from thinking. But it requires a few things. It requires you to get all or nothing thinking, meaning it has to be right, has to be perfect, gotta get it right. There is a right. I can't move forward without the plan, right? If it's not guaranteed the outcome I want, then never mind. That's all. And then, or nothing. I'm not doing it at all. If I can't guarantee all of that, it ain't happening. Not going forward. Never mind. Now, you might not say it this clearly, but what it looks like in your brain is the constant thinking, ruminating over information you already know. Okay? It requires you to get out of that. It also obviously requires you to decide. And what does a decision mean, though? Because we think we decide things all day long. Oh, I said I was going to do that. Yeah, I said, but did you do it? A decision is forward motion. A decision is redirecting your mind and your energy to what is happening next. And it's not thinking about what to do. Thinking about what's best, what's the least probable of failure. None of that. It's like, this is what I'm doing. Okay. It requires you to disregard, or should I say detach from there being a right answer, because that's what keep a lot of you stuck. You think that there's a right answer. And like anyone with a normal brain, if we believe there's a right answer, we're absolutely going to go for it. Okay. We're going to go find it. We're going to search. We're going to wait. We're going to hope. We're going to ask around. We're going to research again. The problem is there are very little things in your life that there actually is a right answer. What? Very few. Now you have things in your life where people tell you what they think the right answer is. You've been raised to believe there's a quote unquote right about what you're talking about. Sure. But that's not the quote unquote right answer, because there are people who will disagree with you. There are people who do it differently, and they have a different answer of what right is. So you see this kind of conundrum we're in when you think there's a right answer. You're waiting for it, because who doesn't want to wait for the right thing or search for it or whatever? But there isn't. So you're exhausted because you can think all day long about the right answer and never actually get it, never actually find it. And so this looks like being burnt out. This looks like exhaustion behind even being able to take action. This looks like stepping your toe in the water but not jumping in. And we think that's saving us time, money, and energy, but it's not. It's exhausting, because in the time in which you have allowed yourself to think, overthink, ruminate, research, talk to people, get their advice, you could have just moved forward with your best guess and figured it out, which is the third thing I'll say. It is disregarding, detaching from a right answer and going with your best guess. This is one of the scariest things your brain will not want to do, depending on how serious, I'm using air quotes, the decision is. But what's interesting is there are no right answers. We make the answers right by deciding which one we're going to do. And then we clean them up and make them righter. Is that a word? By taking action and learning from that action. But you're not taking any action, so you're never learning. So you're continuing to spin on what you hope is the right answer, but you can't guarantee, so you do nothing. And what I want to offer is that think about what you have to lose. That's how I make decisions. So many decisions I've made in my life, especially in the last 10 years. And I'll get asked, well, how did you decide that so quick? How did you jump from this? How is your life just like freaking, I don't know, like just compounding in a way? Like I literally have lived several different lives in this lifetime. Like I heard my coach say that once, and I'm like, damn, that's so true. There was a 16-year-old version. There was a 21-year-old version. There was a 26-year-old version. Right? There was a 32-year-old. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, yes. How did it happen? Because I learned to just take action, figure that shit out along the way. And one of the ways I do that I want to leave you with is getting to a space, my coach taught me this, where one, every decision, which you typically should have only two, usually is down to like, okay, those are the things. Those are the two that I really would do, okay? And you get to where they're both right. You sell yourself on it. Yeah, it's a perfect decision. Love it. Here's why. Bop, 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 right? Oh, that's my watch. And then you do the same thing with the other one. You really get yourself sold like both of these could work, and here's why. And then you get to answer that Venn diagram question, right? Of like, what do I want to do? Both of them are right. Both of them are perfect. Both of them have their ups and downs, but I can see positive benefits from both. Here they are. What do I want to do? I think we don't give ourselves permission to do what we want to do because we've been conditioned that there's a right answer. And if you don't have the right answer, then it must be someone else's. And so we need to get permission from other people about what we want to do. I see this often when I'm working with women and they want to think about it on a consultation. A lot of that is, oh, let me talk to my partner, which is not a problem. I talk to my partner about all my investments. However, they don't even want to decide if they want it first. So I need to get permission from someone else that this is a good idea. And it's very normal because the women I work with, they struggle to trust themselves. They were never taught to. They were always taught what to do. And then as you get older, less and less you have that. Less and less it feels good to be told what to do. Less and less you agree with people who are telling you what to do, right? And so you reach this hard spot like, man, what worked before isn't working now. And so that's something that you have to work through. And for my clients, it begins on the consultation. I'm deciding I want this. I love my reasons why, and I'm ready to go. And I'll talk to my partner and let them know this is what I'm doing, but I've decided I want this, right? It's a very different energy. And so that's the first way of doing it. Let me sell myself on both options because they're both perfect. They're both going to work out. Which one do I want to do? Which can be so fun. I think one of the funnest things I've learned to do over the years is do things because I want to. And people are so surprised by that. Yeah, just wanted to. Yeah, don't care about all that. I wanted to do this. I'm doing it. Here it is. You know, so fun, so freeing to realize I don't need anybody to agree with me. I do many things my husband doesn't agree with, or he think might be better this way or whatever. And I love him. He has his own thoughts in his own mind. I have many thoughts about what he might be doing. And at the end of the day, he gets to choose what he's doing. My kids are the same. I have thoughts about how my 20-year-old should be doing things. And I love that he's like, nah, this is what I'm doing. My mom brain doesn't love it all the time, but I love that as a human being, like to do what you want to do just because, and you will learn. And a lot of times we surprise other people because people have thoughts about, oh, that's gonna da-da-da. And it might be the best decision for you. Look at anyone who's created mass success. The closest people around them had thoughts, right? So that's the first way. The second way, which could be a little bit the same, but I see it differently, is what's worst case scenario? Let's play it out. If you do this, what is the worst thing your brain takes you to? It's like, oh my God, no, I gotta wait to get the right answer. What is the worst case scenario? Make your brain go there. I do this with my clients. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. And then what? And then what? What else will happen? What else? Right? Because if you can get your brain on board with worst case scenario, I'm lost now. Okay, I think I know where I am. Okay. If you can get your brain on board with worst case scenario, then all of a sudden you can also create a plan for, okay, worst case scenario, I make that person upset. Okay. Right. That actually might happen. What are we going to do then? Right. Worst case scenario. And sometimes it gets funny too, because especially when someone's thinking about investing or even in coaching with me, or we're working together and they want to invest in something else or whatever. What's worst case scenario? Oh, well, I use my credit card because I don't have money in my savings anymore. Or it's so funny when you break down the financials. It's like I get a second job, or I mean, because their brain thinks they're gonna like be in a box somewhere. Me and all my kids are gonna be outside, and it's like, whoa, let's wait. Do you have anybody's couch you can sleep on? This really happened, just for until you get yourself together. Hold on. Do you have credit cards? Hold on. Wait a second. Can you get a job? Can you get a second job? Like in the real life, we would never allow that to happen. But our brain will take us there. And if we don't break it down, we'll be making decisions based off these unrealistic fears. My husband will leave me. Like the worst case scenario. But usually when you give yourself, your brain, space to just, and permission to just think about it, what's so fun is that you start to really knock down all of those silly thoughts in the first place, which makes the decision easier because you start to see how doable worst case scenario is, which really most of the time is. I do this thing and it doesn't work out the way I thought, aka I failed. Okay, then what? Right? Like, we go back to the drawing board. We go do the other thing. We decide to change our mind. We don't want to do it anymore. It's like the pressure is released when you make yourself answer the questions that are in your brain. So there's overthinking, ruminating, researching, things living rent free in your head, taking up your energy that could be going to other things. Then there's the decision. That's forward motion. Hey, we're no longer thinking about it. This is what we are doing, you know? And then gave you my 2 ways of how we break that down. And then there's action. Good old action. Good old action. Love me some action. That's a totally different skill set too. Because there's a difference between deciding and acting. You've decided this is what I'm doing. You have not yet done it. Action requires, and let me back up a little bit about making decisions. Actually, there's a few more things I want to say about that. When I broke down how to make a decision, when I talk about what's required, I think I talked enough about that. What's required is for you to be okay being wrong, not getting it right. For you to be okay being judged, right? For you to be okay feeling negative emotion, the uncertainty, the embarrassment, the isolation, the doubt. That's the worst is actually happening. You don't feel good. You don't feel excited and all the things. You feel excited when you're researching. That feels real productive, although it's not. But you don't feel, yeah, like I love a plan. I love planning and I love looking through my options and I love ChatGPT and AI, this and that and the other. And, oh yeah, we're doing something. We're thinking. But that's nothing. You could do that for the next 20 years. And I've seen people do it. People come to my consultations with no judgment. I have no judgment, but it's how the brain works. I want you to know you're not alone. 10 years of the same idea. Hell, we could have failed and won and failed and won by now. That's okay. I meet you where you are. But this is why, though. You gotta know why so you can fix it. So you can lean in when your brain's telling you to lean out. There's an uncomfortable emotion that you're unable to feel. So your brain says, let's continue overthinking. Never mind. Oh, when the kids get older. Oh, when I pay off this and that debt. Which is so interesting to me because when we say that, I'm always curious, because I've been the same person. What was I thinking when I created the debt? When I created the debt in the first place, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking, oh, I don't want any debt. I really wanted the thing. So I created the debt. Not a problem. I'll take care of it later, right? And the thoughts we have around debt and things, it's a whole nother conversation. But just notice to decide you're required to do it imperfectly. You're required to not know things. You're required to trust yourself. You're required to stand in your decision, even when the closest people to you have thoughts. That's not always easy because you're also the person that's been told what to do. That has been given a blueprint of some sort of what the right thing is. And here we are, crazily, thinking of deterring from that path. That's not an easy feat, all right? So if you've made a decision, and you should know if you've made a decision based off the differences I just gave you, give yourself a pat on the back. And if you haven't, which one of the things have I said that resonates with you on why you haven't? And do the work. Or come to a consultation and let me help you do the work. I can show you simply what you need to do. It's very simple. Now on to actions. So there's a third part of that. And actions require a different set of skill set, but although very similar. Okay? Action requires you, I think, to feel a different level of negative emotion. Because there's a difference of deciding to do something in your head and feeling uncomfortable about it. Feeling a little isolated if you share it with people and they're like, I don't think you should do that. Bop, bop, bop. Right? That's uncomfortable, but it's not the same as taking action. Taking action is putting your fork in the sand. Taking action is I kind of like to see it like this public display of possibly getting it wrong, right? Like very real things on the line. That's different than making a decision. Obviously, very different than ruminating and just thinking. And so it requires you to have your back. It requires you to really have your back. We're not required to have our own back until we've taken or until we're taking action. There's no back to have. And the reason why this is difficult is because we've been taught to go against ourselves our entire lives, right? We've been taught to people please, to be selfless and do for others, to, always follow the rules of what good women and mothers should be doing, to wait until it's our time, to wait until someone agrees, to make sure we have things in order. That's always interesting when I hear that, or I've said it to myself in the past. What does that even mean, right? Life is always life and things will always come up. And so when we're telling ourselves that, what we're really saying is we're not going to do it. Because you're never going to have a life where things are guaranteed to be slowed down, in order, taken care of. What does that mean? You've got to answer this for yourself, right? And it also requires you to define enough. Think about it. If you take action on something, you made a decision, we've got this far, you know what you want to do. Now we got to take action. The reason why enough is so important is because if you don't define what enough is, number one, you're probably not going to take the action because your brain's like, oh, when this and this and this happens. But you haven't defined that, what that means to you. And so you never get there, so you don't take the action. You also struggle, if you were to take action, to be clear on what it looks like. That's what enough is. What does it look like? That conversation. I want to start saying no. What does it look like? No to what? To who? To when? I want to better manage my time. Okay, let's define what that means for you. If it's not defined, well, what are we measuring? Right? I want to have a self-care practice. Okay, what does that mean? Your brain's thinking, I got to go to Bali every weekend. And you haven't defined it. So your brain also knows I'm not going to Bali every weekend. So I guess I can't do self-care, right? It's like, what do I want it to mean for me? It makes it so much easier to follow through, right? So we have to define enough for ourselves with the goal, the thing we're doing. We've got to have our back. Having your own back. I know it's like, oh, that sounds good. What does that mean, though? That means when you fell face plant on the concrete, when you do something and it was completely wrong, when you do something and you even feel bad about what you did because you believe it's really wrong, when you hype yourself up and maybe your family, your kids, and it doesn't go like that. When you think you're the reason, oh man, I did this thing and I caused this, caused that, whatever. Take your brain again to worst case scenario. If you were to take action on that thing, what would be your worst case? And what I want you to realize is you fail, you embarrass people, like whatever it is, right? That's actually not the worst case. Why it's really hard to take action on the thing you've decided you want to do is because if it doesn't work out, if you don't do it perfectly, you are going to be a bitch to yourself. I knew I couldn't do it. I suck. I am never good enough. I never figured this out. Right? All of these things. I'm not a good human. I'm a bad person. I'm not right. I'll never be right. I'm horrible. Right? Like whatever your flavor is, that's what makes taking action very scary. On the flip side, on this side of life, where no matter what I do, even if I'm circumstantially dead wrong, I will be kind to myself. I will speak kindly to myself. I will energetically hug myself, and sometimes in real life, hug myself. Like you would do to the 3-year-old you, 5-year-old you, 10-year-old you, 15-year-old you. What did she need? Looking back, we know she didn't need someone to browbeat her, physically beat her, verbally, emotionally abuse her. That never worked. And so having your own back is deciding you'll never do that either, no matter what. Now, why this is one of the most magical things you can learn to do is because if you think about it and just take yourself to a space where you never beat yourself up, you are always kind to yourself. You'll take responsibility. We're accountable to ourselves. Nobody holds me more accountable than myself. Nobody takes radical responsibility about me and my actions than I do. But there's a way in which I do that. I'm still very kind to myself. There's a difference. We've been taught that accountability and responsibility is equal to beating yourself up in whatever ways, depriving yourself of joy, guilting yourself for the past. I mean, man, it's like a list of things, right? Depriving yourself of the future because you messed up the past. Still thinking about yourself as that person 5 years ago when you're literally not even her anymore. You don't even think like her anymore, right? Like your brain is just always going to use the past to predict the future. And I want to call you to deciding what right now is. And that has to be, that doesn't have to be anything like the past. But it's so magical when you learn this skill because when you think about it and just take yourself to the space, or think about Regina, think about me. I do this big gigantic thing and oh my God, I flop. I'm thinking about last year, I got on stage and just spoke for like 2 or 3 minutes. And the whole time I had a vendor table and at this 2-day conference, and my event, my vendor table was so popular, so fun, connecting with all the people. They're like, yes, yes, and yes. Everyone's like, man, who is that girl? What's that table? What's happening over there? I want some of that, right? Everyone's in that energy. And I get on stage to raffle off the gift that I had to all the people who came to the table. And I was like, I know that they were like, who is this girl and what did she do with the one that was outside? Because when I got in front of 500 people, I just had never done that before. And I was like, my name is Regina. I'm a life and my, like, it was probably horrible. I'm so glad no one thought enough of me to record that. And so that was a big flop for me. Now imagine me doing that. Now, the whole time I'm at this event was because I know I can help these women. They're VPs, they're high rate jobs, they are in energy demanding jobs, they're overworking, they're depleted, they're exhausted, they struggle with time management, people pleasing, they can't enjoy their families when they get home. I know you and I can help you. I know I can. And so the whole time I brought things to my vendor table to help them see like, this is what you need and I can help you. And then I get on stage and it's like, can she? Like, what is even happening? Right. And so in my brain, I completely flopped everything I had been doing for 2 days. All of the energy I had been putting into to really helping these women see how important their emotional mental health is and being able to decide for themselves and have a good time in life, basically. And so I was embarrassed and I felt really bad. And I energetically hugged myself. Look at you. You got on stage in front of 500 people 5 years ago. You never even thought this was ever an opportunity. You never thought you wouldn't have even said you would do it. You would run from any opportunity of this. I didn't get into coaching to be a speaker, yet I'm speaking more and more. That was not what I signed up for. You know, many people are like, I'm a speaker. That's what I'm looking for. No, I would love for this message just to get to 1 million people and I don't have to get on the stage in front of people. But less and less, that's not possible. Like, people are wanting me to come and share. I understand. I am very good at what I do, all the things, yet I didn't foresee this. And in that moment, 10 years ago, I would have like shut myself down. You are not good enough for this. You don't have what it takes. You suck, you whatever. What I did was energetically love on myself so hard. I was so freaking proud of myself. So proud of myself. So much so that this year I have an opportunity to speak on the stage, to be one of the actual speakers. And I said yes to it. Scared in my bones. And I said yes. But that opportunity, I would have shut that down. I would not have even, I continued to build relationships with, people there involved. And I would have just shut myself, isolated myself. They would never heard from me again. So think about, you're like, oh, having your own back, that sounds nice. No, that is everything. Because the reason why we don't go for the things we don't decide, and then we don't take action on the things we decide, is because of how we're going to feel when we fail. And I say when because you will do things and it won't work out the way that you thought. But how do you take care of yourself in that moment? That is your guiding light. If you are someone that's going to talk mean to yourself, beat yourself up, deprive yourself from this beautiful life because you made mistakes, then of course your brain is going to talk you out of moving forward. If you think failure means something bad about you, then of course you are going to do everything you can to not fail. But when you're a person that's like, I'm ready for it. I know it's going to suck. I really don't want it, but I'm going to be so kind to myself. Then all of a sudden, when the worst case scenario happens, i.e. you fail, you make a mistake, you embarrass yourself, that's it. Because on the flip side of that, right underneath that is you, like, you go girl, you got this. Look at you putting yourself out there. Look at you. Well, that's not so bad, right? The worst case scenario is not what will happen, it's what we will make it mean about us. And when you decide to have your own back, you all of a sudden don't make it mean anything bad about you. It's a skill that you must have to continue taking action in your life that scares you, that is against what you've been taught, that is against what maybe other people around you think you should do. You've got to have the skill of having your own back. You've got to have the skill of evaluating. You can't just do something like, oh, well, they flopped. Never mind. No, there's a specific, very simple skill I teach my clients where what went well, what didn't go well, what am I going to do differently next time? And there's an energetic way to do this. Not we're just writing on a piece of paper where you get up and you're like, yes, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go. Right? You have to have the skill to balance the negative emotion that comes with shifting and changing. Anytime you feel comfortable, it's because you're not doing anything new. So when we talk about growing and feeling comfortable and doing the new thing, that requires discomfort because your brain's like, whoa, 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 this is not who we are. What's happening? All the fire alarms are going off. You have to be able to hold that. That is a skill. Because right now, when you feel that, you run back to what's comfortable. This is why people take it 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, and you come to my consult because you've been trying and you can't get ahead. All that's happening is you simply don't know how to balance the negative emotions that come, even the positive emotions. So it's really balancing the emotions because many of us don't know how to experience joy and excitement and celebrate ourselves. And that feels uncomfortable. Remember, it's not about if it's good for you. It's about if your brain is used to it or not. So anytime you're doing something new, like being kind to yourself, your brain's fire alarms will go off. This is not what we do. This is what's happening. Hold on. We need the same thing. Let's go back to the same thing. So it's a skill to be able to balance the emotions that come with doing something new, even if it serves you, right? I have so many other thoughts, but I'm going to keep this short on the shorter end. Maybe I'll do a part 2, but I would love to hear your thoughts. What stood out for you? Don't consume this. What are you going to do from this moment? What part of this really stood out for you, and what are you going to do with it in real life? Right? That's all I have for you all, and have a wonderful, beautiful April, and I'll see you next time.